The other day, I was perusing the Netflix catalog, as you do, and I came across this movie called Monster Island. This movie is actually one of the most delusional, insane movies I've ever had the displeasure of viewing. It's like somebody loaded up an LMG with pointless characters and very bad plot lines, and then shot it at you. So let us just plunge right into the cesspit of bad juju that is Monster Island. So yeah, this movie is by Discreet Art Productions. Damn, sorry to break it to you, but you weren't discreet enough with this piece of art, if you can even call it that. The movie starts out with this city here, and already I'm just like, what? What is this? Did Picasso sneeze while playing Gmod or something? Like, holy shit, look at this. We see this little house here, and we see that a dad and his son live in it. We got the dad here, who looks like Larry the Cable Guy, but if he put his head in a lathe. Then we got Lucas here, a teenager with blue hair. Wow, so quirky. At the breakfast table, he tells his dad that most of the top parents out there are letting their kids go to Melanie's party tonight. What a little bastard brain. That's some hardcore emotional manipulation right there. Right after his dad makes him this gourmet breakfast, dude. Lucas is bent out of shape because he isn't able to emotionally manipulate his male parental figure into letting him go to Melanie's party. On the way to school, Lucas bugs his dad further about going to the party, but to no avail. Until Lucas pokes fun at his dad's body mass. And then his dad says that he can go to the party, but only if he stays out of trouble and brings his inhaler. And apparently Lucas and his dad need these asthma inhalers because asthma runs in their family or something. But the weird thing is the dad and Lucas use their inhaler, like pink smoke come out. And I thought inhalers were supposed to put air inside of you, not emit cherry-flavored vape, but to each their own, I guess. Wait, has Lucas's dad just actually disguised their inhalers as vapes? Okay, honestly, kind of mad respect. Kind of a gamer move, not gonna lie. At school, we see the resident gene pool clogger bully Lucas's friend, who's named Peter. At first, Lucas is hesitant to get involved, but eventually he decides to stand up to the bully. But when Lucas stands up to the bully, he gets dragged into it as well. The bully then threatens Lucas and Peter and tells them that they better get him an A in biology today. So we got the classic thing of the bully forcing the nerd to do his homework. But just before Lucas and his friend become part of the school's architecture, our two characters get off the hook because the resident gene pool generator here of the school asks the bully to escort to her class. And we can see that the bully and the girl are an item, and we can also see that Lucas and his friend are down bad for her. The nerd kid obviously has it worse than Lucas though, because he looks at her and says, "I'd like to do some favors for her." The fuck does that mean, Romeo? Huh? What's going through that demented noggin of yours? No wonder he gets picked on. He's emitting Ed Gein vibes, dude. So Lucas and his friend are dreading having to go to biology, and they sit down to think at how they can get the bully a good grade. And Ed Gein Jr. here just pulls out a dead frog from his backpack. He just pulls it out, and he's like, "Here, would this help?" And then he squeezes it like a doggy toy. Apparently it does help because the dead frog gives Lucas an idea, and they both head to biology to put Lucas's plan into action. And what is that plan? Well, it's to make the dead frog twerk dance to Bang Bang by Nicki Minaj, of course. And then it gets even worse because Lucas cranks up the electricity and explodes the frog all over the room like it was the victim of a saw trap. Like there's actually guts in... There's an eye here on the screen with frog goo. It's so violent, bro. It's just like, what is this movie? I haven't been intoxicated enough to be able to handle this kind of tomfoolery, dude. After school, we transition to Lucas's dad, who works at Trunk Mechanics, and he gets a call from the school that his son got in trouble. And we see Lucas, Ed Gein Jr., and the bully here at the principal's office, and they obviously just had the fear of God put into him by the principal. Lucas's dad isn't too happy with him, and he tells Lucas that he won't be going to that party since he got in trouble. After taking Lucas home, he promptly retreats into his treehouse and pouts about not being able to go to Melanie's party. We also figure out that the bully's name is Cameron and that the gene pool generator's name is Melanie, and she's the one throwing the party. Lucas gets a text from Melanie, and she really wants Lucas to come to the party, so Lucas does the upstanding responsible thing and sneaks out behind his dad's back. Later that night at Melanie's Halloween party, oh yeah, did I mention it was a Halloween party? At the party, Melanie hits on Lucas and they slow dance together. So I guess Melanie is, the resident gene pool generator. But Melanie is actually just debating Lucas, and she distracts him while the bully dumps a bunch of frogs and slime onto Lucas's head. And one of the frogs, as it falls down, grabs onto Lucas's head and full on makes out with him. And you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to put that in the movie. It's just unnecessary. So while Lucas is getting embarrassed at the party and getting tongue from a frog, his dad is cruising around town trying to find him and get him his inhaler. But out of pure embarrassment, Lucas turns into this thing. And I have no clue what it's supposed to be. It has suction cup hands and this weird shell looking thing on his back. And scared, everyone at the party runs away from Monster Lucas. It's okay though, because Lucas's dad pulls up and picks up Lucas in the back of his truck and drives home. So Lucas is obviously confused as to why he's turning into a mutant. And at home, his dad just says that there's a simple answer to that. We're monsters. And if you don't want to be a monster, you gotta take a hit off your asthma vape. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I don't think that's a simple answer. I don't think that was the answer that Lucas was looking for. Your kid just turned into a mutated Nemo demon, and all you have to say is, oh yeah, lol, we're monsters. He does give further explanation saying that whenever their family turns into teenagers, they turn into monsters. So it's just puberty? Is this his dad's way of telling him about the birds and the bees? Because if so, I'm dipping out when the Freaky Monster sex ed demonstration starts. Obviously still confused, Lucas asks his dad if his mom ever knew about the whole monster thing. But his dad is just like, oh, the girl in that picture is a model. Your real mom was a monster. And Lucas's face here just perfectly sums me up right now. I have so many questions. Why did his dad hide his real mom from him? Was she just like a monster all the time? And if she was, wouldn't it have just been easier to be like, hey, your mom's a monster and you're a monster and I'm a monster, and just break it to him straight instead of cutting out a model from the cover of a Vogue magazine and then putting it next to a picture of yourself? You know what I'm saying? Why would you need to have a photo? If you're gonna hide it from Lucas, you could just not have a photo instead of this. Lucas is shocked at his dad's impeccable Photoshop skills and is upset that he never knew his mom. Lucas's dad tries to cheer him up by taking out this ornate-looking box, and he says that this box is from their island, Calvera. Inside of the box is a map to Monster Island and to Calvera, where Lucas's extended monster family lives. And Lucas is obviously intrigued and wants to find Monster Island for himself so he can get some answers about who he is. And when Lucas's dad falls asleep, Lucas just takes the map, hops into a watermelon truck, and hitches a ride down to the waterfront. He also just yeets his phone away because his dad called him on it, which is dumb because now he's got no way to call the popo if something goes wrong. And you can't talk to your friends either if you get to Monster Island, so good going, Jimmy Neutron. Lucas comes to the dock and he outplays this homeless guy with a Big Mac and outruns his Doberman named Sprinkles and gets into a small motorboat and sails away from Monster Island. We then just get a hard cut to Lucas's dad in a boat in what seems to be the Florida Everglades or the Amazon rainforest. Could be either one, to be honest. It's just so jarring. It's just a hard cut to a completely different environment, and then it almost immediately cuts back to Lucas and he's in the middle of the ocean. It's just like 10 seconds and then it's switching back and forth. Switches so fast, it's like a 4-year-old flicking a light switch, but instead of lights going on and off, it's just bad plot lines. And so we see in the middle of the ocean that Lucas accidentally loses the map to Monster Island, but it doesn't matter because 2 seconds later he sees Monster Island right in the distance and he goes towards it. When he gets near the island, we can see that something is moving around in the waters, and Lucas panics and ends up hitting his brain canister against a rock and gets knocked out, and he falls into the water. Lucas then gets snatched by this Leviathan, and everything fades to black. I guess Lucas never played Subnautica before since he didn't turn back when he heard this shit.
detecting multiple Leviathan-class life forms in the region.
Rookie mistake. Lucas wakes up on the shores of Monster Island, and the first thing he does is harass the local wildlife. And after successfully reducing the turtle population, Lucas ventures forward into the forest of Monster Island in search of answers. The movie then cuts to this creature being chased around by these monsters, and he eventually gets trapped in a spider web. And we see this evil college professor guy tells the frog creature that he's gonna tear his gills off. Kind of violent, but I'm here for it. I'm down. Then the movie cuts away again, and we see the dad come to these two fish monsters, Shiro and Kuro. They're very racistly portrayed, though, so that's great. Lucas's dad needs these guys' help to be able to turn back into a monster so he can find Monster Island and find his son. And then we cut back to Monster Island, and we got the evil professor guy, and we see him torturing this little fish creature with this Frankenstein-looking machine. Oh yeah, and did I mention that there's a town full of monsters? And that's Calvera, not the island? Kind of misleading, but okay. I honestly thought the island was called Calvera, not some town on it, but whatever. Lucas eventually finds Calvera, and he sets out to look for his grandma, Carlotta. Eventually, he finds this shop called Carlotta's Shop. And he passes it up because he knows that Carlotta would never be in there. Just kidding. Inside the store, we see Carlotta and this little pig girl who helps her out. And the little pig girl doesn't like Lucas since he gets in her way all the time or something. Lucas talks to Carlotta and they catch up a little bit, and Carlotta is drinking a cup of tea flavored with frog farts. She just has a frog that farts in her tea to flavor it. Gourmet, I'm sure. While Lucas is catching up with his monster Gam Gam, we see these two cops who are monitoring Lucas because they think that he's sus. Monsters have been disappearing and at around the time Lucas showed up, so they think he's got something to do with it. And they just have a mic taped to the bottom of Carlotta's table so they can hear everything that's going on, which is odd. But I mean, they're the government, so I guess that's par for the course. Okay, but hold on. How did they get the mic in there in the first place? Lucas just arrived. They must have had it in there before Lucas got there. So had they just been monitoring and listening to Carlotta before Lucas got there? I mean, hey, it's not my business. If you want to be a peeping Tom on 80-year-old monster gilfs, that's your business, not mine. Lucas bunks at Carlotta's, and as he's getting ready for bed, he discovers that he has wings. Turns out that that shell-looking thing on his back was just a pair of folded wings. And Lucas can fly about as well as I can piss straight. The next morning, Carlotta puts the pig girl and Lucas in charge of the store because she has to go to the town meeting, which is about the disappearances. Inside the store, pig girl tells Lucas that his uncle was a mad scientist and he blew up his mom after mixing cucumber lime Gatorade with Cranch. Calling it right now, Mr. Evil Professor is Lucas's uncle, and he's the one who killed his mommy. Just calling it right now. During the day, Lucas and Pig Girl decide to ditch watching the shop completely, and they have a little romantic bonding session. Back at the evil professor's lair, we see that his monster fry cooker goes kaput and that he needs a new part. And where is he gonna get it? You guessed it, at Carlotta's. Wow. And the professor says, let's go visit the family. So I called it. Carlotta goes back to the shop after the town meeting, and she encounters the evil professor guy breaking into her store, and the mad scientist guy just tasers his own mom and gets the shit from his shop and dips. I guess they're not on great terms. I guess he has mommy issues. And while all of this has been going on, Lucas's dad has been with those fish fuckers trying to get himself to turn back into a monster. And one of the methods they try is sending dogs after him for some reason. That reason is because dogs have hunted monsters since the dawn of time, and because, and I quote, the way is the way. Alright? I guess. They also try a bunch of other methods, which they have a list of on their iPhone 10. No joke either. They're actually just using a smartphone for their list of ways to get the monster out of Lucas's dad. And after trying a bunch of different stuff, they land on number 666. Kill the monster. To be honest, I think that's a step backwards. But hey, I'm not the conjoined racist koi fish monster. What do I know? Back on the island, Lucas and the pig girl go to the evil Professor Castle because the hog girl tells Lucas that's where his mom died. There they find Carlotta strapped to Mr. Evil Professor's zappy device, and we get some exposition about how the evil professor guy wants to siphon all monsters' powers so he can have them all. We then get a flashback, and we see Mr. Evil Professor guy, him at the diner table with his fam and little Lucas. Okay, pause. Lucas is born as a human, and then he turns into a monster when he becomes a teenager? That's some back-assward logic right there. We see Mr. Evil Professor guy pout because he didn't transform into a monster when he was a teen, and he feels useless, so he runs off to his lab to make some sort of potion to make him transform. Lucas's mom follows him and goes to comfort him, and she does, but unfortunately, the potion explodes and it kills Lucas's mom. Obviously mad, Lucas's dad tells the evil professor guy to leave the island, and he almost kills him. And Carlotta just turns the other way as her normal son is shunned and leaves. Damn, no wonder this guy's pissed. It was an accident. A tragic one, but it was an accident. Then instead of consoling him, you'd all just give him the boot. Colder origin story than Big Bird. Back in the present time, the evil professor henchmen try to snag the pig girl and Lucas is able to get away, but not pig girl. And Lucas just pops out of the window here, and he's on the ground, but isn't this castle on the side of a cliff? Shouldn't he plummet to his death? Maybe he had his moon shoes on, and that's what saved him. Lucas is now on the ground, and one of the henchmen run after him, but Lucas has his stealth stat maxed, so he's able to evade him and hide. Meanwhile, eventually Lucas's dad is able to turn into a monster, and he flies to Monster Island and raids the castle with Lucas. Inside of the castle, Veronica, which is the pig girl's name, gets zippity-zappitied and is held hostage by the evil Professor Man. We also discover that the evil professor's name is Norcut. Norcut? It's Norcut? Norcut? Are you serious? What kind of name is Norcut? It's like the least intimidating villain name ever. It's like, oh yeah, Norcut. He's super this is Norcut. He's like super evil, dude. Norcut is actually the worst villain name ever. Sounds like a reject Pokemon that never made it into the games. Anyway, Lucas grabs some of Norcut's serum and tells him to let Veronica go if he wants it. And Norcut, not wanting to lose the serum, lets Veronica go, but Lucas slams the serum into the ground. It shatters, and Norcut is sad about his glowy liquid. And you would think that this would mean Norcut wouldn't be able to transform into full monster, but nah, he just mixes some glowy fluid and transforms anyway. So I guess that's that. I do have to say though, his transformation is pretty badass. He actually looks really cool. I like his glowy exposed heart. Very cool. Very cool. Lucas and his dad fight evolved Norcut, and things ain't looking too hot for them. And Lucas's dad gets absolutely diddled by Norcut, and it looks as if he's dead. And Lucas goes up to his dad and he's like, "Dad, wake up. I promise I'll never run away again." It's like, dude, you think that's gonna wake him up? He was just playing and just waiting for you to say you'll never run away. Get him an aspirin, dude. Don't just say you're not gonna sis you out. But yeah, Lucas confronts Norcut, and eventually he shoves his asthma vape down his throat and turns him back into a human. And the day is saved. Yay! Lucas and his dad make up, and Lucas gets the girl, and they save all of the captured monsters from Norcut's castle, and they all live in Cauliflower now, or whatever the monster's town name is, and the movie ends. Where do I even start with this movie? I guess I'll start with the animation, because that's simple. The animation is fine. I guess. I mean, it's decent. The animation makes sense and actually looks not that bad the entire movie. You don't have any crazy movements or snapped ligaments, but that's all that it is. It's just decent. You have certain parts where the lip sync is just a dumpster fire though. He'll just look like he's saying anti-disestablishmentarianism, but he's actually just saying, hey, doesn't line up at all. The texture quality varies greatly throughout the movie as well. Some of the textures are actually pretty decent and, dare I say, unique. Most of the movie is in this painted brush style, which I've never seen before in an animated movie, and I quite like how it looks. And you can see what I'm talking about here on the clothes and hair. It gives everything a really nice stylistic cartoon pop, and it also makes the textures soft on the eyes. But then some of the textures are just not done in this style, and they're like actual textures, like the wings or the monster's skin. They're just normal textures, which is kind of disappointing. I wish they would have done this painted brush style for everything throughout the movie. I think it would have kept everything more consistent, actually make the movie stand out stylistically. And some of the textures are just bad, especially on the ground textures, like close up. It's just really low quality, and when close up, it just clouds your vision because it's so blurry. It looks like a 2009 YouTube video in 2080p, dude. I also think the design of the world could have worked, but they just were all over the place with it. At the beginning, you had the city that looked like this, and then you have the monster town that looks like this. It's like, make up your mind about what you want the style of the world to be. I think they could have made it work if they toned down the craziness of the city design and then just had that be the global design of the world. It probably would have worked quite well with the painted brush look and would have made the movie stand out more, but they didn't. The plot of this movie is like trying to win an argument using reason and logic on Twitter. It just doesn't work. First off, you got this kid who's actually a monster, and he figures out his monster family is somewhere in the world, and so he goes off to the island to find his fam, while his dad is trying to turn back into a monster because he inhaled too much cherry-flavored vape. And okay, wait, how does the cherry-flavored vape even work? We know that his dad makes it, and it's some kind of potion, but like, how does it work? It never explains that. And then you got the whole plot with Norcut, him being a part of the family and him killing Lucas's mom, and it's just super confusing. It's just so much to keep track of. You got Lucas's mom and his dad, and then his dad is mad at his uncle, and then his grandma is also mad at his uncle, and then his uncle goes bad and kills Lucas's dad's wife. And it's just like, they could have dubbed it down a lot more, to be honest. I don't think there was really a need for the complex family story. Probably could have just done away with that or dubbed it down a lot. And how the plot progresses is so all over the place as well. You have Lucas, who is finding his monster Gam Gam and finding cauliflower, and then his dad, and then the evil villain guy. The movie just switches between these three plot points every 5 minutes, and you can't tell what the hell is going on, so you're just left there like a deer that got hit by a Greyhound bus, wondering what the hell is going on. And what doesn't help either is that the movie is cram-packed with these pointless characters, like the bully and his bimbo, and Lucas's pet lizard that's just dragged around the entire movie, or these two schoolgirls who are friends with Lucas. They just appear twice and that's it. And characters you think that would be important just aren't, like the conjoined fish. Yeah, no, they don't do anything. They're just shoved in there to help Lucas's dad turn back into a monster. But eventually Lucas's dad figures out by himself the most impactful thing they did was make me realize how widespread racism is. And the two cops I mentioned once, yeah, they don't do anything either. They just stalk Lucas for the movie. The pig girl, I thought she would be important, but she's not. She's just a love interest. She just gets captured and then saved, so she's just a pointless love interest. Oh, and Lucas's nerd friend from the beginning, I thought that he'd be along for the ride, but nah, we never see him again after the first 10 minutes of the movie. The side characters are, yeah, they're just all bad, but the main characters are pretty lame too. They're just so stereotypical and have no depth to them at all. It's not just their personalities that are bland, the designs are bad too. Lucas is a teenage male with blue hair and he wants to be rebellious. The dad is just a dad who doesn't understand his kid. The bully is the bully, the nerd is the nerd, the villain is the villain, and so on. And the main villain, Norcut, is just lame too. His design is so basic. He's got a long coat and some goggles, and that's it. His physical features are just basic as hell. No wonder he hates being human. He looks like an eggplant that managed to gain sentience. Some of the designs are cool, but not for any of the main characters. I like how they make the trees these cool monsters that walk around. I think that's pretty creative. And I like the design of the stupid cop. He's kind of cool as well. Oh, and Norcut's final form is actually sick as hell. It's kind of dope. He's got like this fire chest laser that he can shoot and these tentacles. And I think that honestly, it would have been better if they just had Norcut be a monster the entire movie. It would have been way cooler and less bland. Also, the fact that Lucas and his father just decide to live at Monster Island at the end of the movie is nuts. The dad just leaves his auto body shop and Lucas ditches his school and all of his friends. So the nerd kid's best friend just dipped and never came back. They just decide to leave the entirety of their old life behind and live at Cauliflower. So that's great. It's also never explained why Lucas and his dad have to leave Monster Island in the first place. Yeah, Lucas's mom died and Norcut gets shunned, but does that mean that they just gotta leave? I don't know. Seems super unnecessary. Also, he only figured out who half the characters' names were at the last 10 minutes of the movie. For 80% of the movie, I called Norcut Evil Professor Guy, and Lucas's dad, I just called Lucas's dad, but apparently his name is Nicholas. But I only heard his name said once, and it was near the end of the movie. You don't know who anybody's name is for 75% of the movie. And the movie is just overall weird. You got Peter, the nerdy kid with the dead frog in his backpack, and who fantasizes about the school thought. And you have Lucas, who makes a dead frog twerk dance and then blows it up right after. And then he also makes out with a frog as well. So just everything that Lucas does with frogs feels so wrong. He's either blowing them up, making them twerk, or making out with them. So something's wrong with this boy. And you also got that one frog that flavored Carlotta's tea with farts. It's just something with this movie and frogs, man. I don't know. And one of the most frustrating things about this movie is how illogical one of the main points is. And that is that all monsters are born as human, but then they turn into monsters as teenagers, which just doesn't make sense. If you have a mommy and a daddy monster, and they really like each other a lot, and they make a kid, it should come out as a monster, not as a human being. That just makes no sense at all. They just have it in there so you can have the whole story with Lucas becoming a teenager and figuring out he's a monster. That's the only reason why they have it in there. And just the overall vibe of this movie is wrong. The plot is wrong. The characters are wrong. Everything is wrong. And there's definitely a plethora of other things that's wrong with this movie that I just forgot to mention. But yeah, Monster Island was crazy to say the least. And if you want to see how crazy it is for yourself, just go ahead and watch it. It's on Netflix, so knock yourself out. I don't really recommend it, though, since I've had more fun loading into GTA 5 online than watching this movie. But thank you for joining me on this journey of insanity and lack of reason, and you can expect more journeys like this one soon. Okay, bye.